Okay, I'm upstairs. You guys know how the upstairs drill goes. We could have technical difficulties if I'm upstairs. I just wanted to come on here because, oh my gosh, like sometimes stupid people get on my nerves. Like honestly and truly, I get so flippin' irritated when people who are dumb approach me to debate anything that I've said. You cannot be ignorant and then come and talk to me and try to debate me. First of all, like, will I go to, through a witty banter with somebody? I mean, I guess, I try to do that out of politeness and respect for the people that have commented. Hi, Trisha. I try to do it out of respect for people who comment. Everybody who comments. Whether I agree with you or not, I try to respect the fact that you took the time to bother commenting, unless you're saying something, completely disrespectful or something like that. I simply won't bother. But everybody else, I try to respond to you. But oh my gosh, how long ago did I do that little video on Darwinism and the application of macroevolutionary theory to racism? Okay, how long ago did I do that? I still have retarded people approaching me over that video saying stupid things. So I decided, since you took the time to make yourself look dumb in my comment section, to simply openly address the dumbass things that you guys say to me. Because honestly, hi Daryl, hi Darius. It becomes irritating. So let me share my screen for a second. Let me share my screen so that we can look at this together. Hold on. I want to get rid of this before I share my screen. I think I have something on here that's going to be annoying. Okay. All right, now let me share my screen. And maybe I'll share the whole thing. That'll make it easy in case I have to click backward and forward. So again, stupid people coming to my channel with their emotionality. And you can't come here emotional and dumb and then try to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. You can be emotional or you can be dumb, but you can't be both. That's not a thing. Being emotional and being dumb is not appropriate. So let's just talk about some of the comments that people left me. I feel like I need to address this since you guys have so much smoke for me, but no fire. So Brian Christensen said, Darwin got on a boat for 5 weeks. Yeah, you are correct. It only takes 5 weeks to sail 25,000 nautical miles on a sailboat. The voyage on the Beagle took 4 years. Okay, first of all, retard, the voyage on the Beagle took 5 years, not 4, but 5 years. And if you had listening skills, you would know that I said that Darwin got on the Beagle for 5 years and he spent 5 weeks in the Galapagos Islands. See, this is where being mentally retarded becomes a problem. You're so emotional that I dare to say that Darwin was uneducated, which is a fact. He was a dropout 2 times, could not succeed in going to school, so he bowed out and decided he'd become a priest, which he also failed at. You're so emotional that I brought that up, that you don't listen. Listening is key. That's literally what I wrote to him. I said, no, he was in Galapagos for 5 weeks. The ship sailed other places over 5 years. Hold on. Let me edit that. I said the ship sailed other places over 5 years. See, this is the retardation of it all. Like when you come and you say retarded shit, listening is key. The ability to actually know what the hell I said before you comment in my comment section is very important. Not only did I say it, but I had a screen up. Let me show you the screen. I had a screen up. I had a screen up that says the Beagle was at sea for 5 years, but the ship only spent 5 weeks in the Galapagos Islands in 1835. I also said, oh, brilliant one, I said he was 22 when he got on the Beagle. He was 26 when he spent 5 weeks in the Galapagos. But because your IQ is 2, you missed all that and just got emotional to come in my comment section and make yourself look dumb. This is the stuff I'm talking about. And how do I know that this man was emotional? I know he was emotional because he left me like 6 comments. Comment number 2, man, and he's not the only one. It's just that these crazy people, they always bulk comment, right? Comment number 2, man, you really didn't benefit from attending school. Actually, I attended private school right through college. Not only did I attend school, but I attended an expensive school. But continue. Man, he really didn't benefit from attending school. I'm positive this dude is white. Social Darwinism is not about nature nor biology. Social Darwinism is not about nature nor biology? Huh, that's interesting because the people who came up with social Darwinism, again, listening is key. Charles Darwin, Alfred Wallace, we talked about them last time. William Sumner, Walter Bagehot, all of those people, they seemed to think it was about human beings. They did. I think I recall, and I quoted this, Darwin wrote a whole book called The Descent of Man, where he literally said that evolution applied to human beings. Social Darwinism is just Darwinism that they try to clean up and add social to so that you don't think it's something different. I'm positive I cited like 3 books and 4 authors that came up with the idea of natural selection, survival of the fittest, struggle for existence, and all of that. And all of them were talking about people. All of them. Darwin said that civilized races would most certainly exterminate and replace throughout the world the savage races. When they were massacring people practicing social Darwinism in Australia, Darwin said he didn't know of a more striking instance of the comparative rate of increase of a civilized over a savage race. He said that in response to the Melbourne Review, a reputable paper, saying that allowing the Black Australians to live was promoting survival of the non-fittest. So, retard, yes, social Darwinism does have something to do with nature and biology, especially because they believe that people are animals. That's what they believed. But you guys are so bright. Like, you come into my comment section with all of your brilliance, your inability to listen. You're making an argument and you don't even know how long the Beagle was on sea. In your attempt to correct something I never said, you didn't even know how long the ship was at sea yourself. You just run your big fat mouth. You must have gone to Wikipedia. Oh, but this was really great. He said, image, a single mother school dropout calling Darwin a loser. First of all, not only were my children born in wedlock, but I married. Let's just get that out the way. Second of all, not only am I educated, my parents paid great amounts of money for my private education in one of the most expensive cities to live in the country, which is San Francisco. What I am not is not single, nor uneducated. Clearly, I'm more educated than you, and I possess listening skills. But more importantly, I possess sources that made you very, very uncomfortable because you didn't bother to check my sources: Stanford, Harvard, UC Berkeley, the frickin' Smithsonian. You just figured, oh, she's Black, she must be single and uneducated. Nah, this Black girl grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood with a parent who worked for IBM. This Black girl went to private school her whole life. But I know the color of my skin. That's such a problem for you. You just assume I must be both single and stupid, but I'm not. And this is what I mean about white people. Honestly, they've been taught that they're superior for so long that they actually just run on the presumption, I'm sorry, the assumption that you must be stupid because you're Black, that you must not be married because Black people, we don't get married. That's not something that we do. Okay, let's talk about some of these other retarded comments, because I had a troll on my channel. I don't know if she was like really I don't know if she's like really trying to troll. Wait a second. Can you guys hear me? Oh, why can't I? Wait a second. I want to make sure. Can you guys hear me before I continue? Cassandra, these comments could only be from white people. Who else are these comments from? Who else could these comments be from? I can't imagine these comments are from anybody else. Okay, I'm trying to figure out why I can't see all my comments. Hold on, let me go somewhere else. Let me go somewhere else. I'm going to I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to somewhere else so that I can see these comments a little bit easier because it's upsetting my computer. Probably because I'm upstairs. But my point is that you can't come into my comment section not having actually listened to the video and call me out. It's not possible to do that. They stay projecting. I know, Cassandra. I mean, but you make yourself look stupid when you come into my comment section commenting on things I literally didn't say. Hold on one second. I'm about to share my screen with you guys again. So then another troll came to my channel. And mind you, my video is only about the application of macroevolutionary theory as it applies to murdering non-whites. That's what it's about. Darwin said they were going to murder us. Beghut said they were going to murder us. Flippin' Herbert Spencer said they were going to murder us. William Sumner said they were going to murder us. And then people went forth and murdered us. And they were quoting Darwin. Hell, Darwin was quoting himself in multiple places. The guy wrote a whole book about killing people who weren't Black. So I don't understand the logic of debating with me over whether or not social Darwinism has anything to do with nature, when the reason that the man wrote the book was to say that some human beings were inferior to others. Or why? Well, apparently it wasn't a great life for some people. Some people felt some kind of way. Okay, great. Let me go to, I'm going to share my screen with you guys again. Let me go to these other comments that people made, because I had somebody, and again, I don't know if this woman was a troll or if she was just your run-of-the-mill, like, yellow school bus retard. Like, I don't know. But if you're asking me to explain something to you, you can't then say that I'm ignorant. And so a lot of you guys encountered this troll. So I'm going to share her comments with you because her comments were freaking off the chain. I was like, bitch, in the world? I mean, her comments were just as dumb as this first guy's. But hold on, let me share them with you. I'm going to share my screen because I just want to address this. I felt some kind of way. Mostly because if you're going to be stupid, I feel like you should be dumb in a corner somewhere. I don't, why subject me to your idiocy? And even when I try to gracefully bow out of a dumbass conversation, because I'll say, okay, you know what? For me, rather than fight you, I'm not even trying to convert your mindset. Like, please just go about your way. You go about your way. I'll go about my way. We can do it that way, right? That's the other option that we have is we can go our separate ways. We don't have to agree on this. But I want to share with you guys the other dumb person that came to my channel. And I told her I was going to use her as a video example. So hopefully she didn't delete her comments because I felt like she was a prime example of I think she was a prime example of somebody that was retarded. Okay? I think she was a prime example of somebody that was stupid. I mean, along with this other person. So hold on one second. I want to make sure I pull up her comment before I share my screen because she made literally 1,000 comments. And she not only made 1,000 comments to me, she was going under everybody else's comments. Oh, well, let me show you. You guys can see this for yourself. She was going under everybody else's comments and she was commenting to them too. And nobody was even trying to engage her. She was just being emotional. So we have Brian. And then we have, what is her name? Alenhith, which is just a fucked up name, but whatever. So I want to go to her many comments that have been going on for days because she feels like really strongly about this. She's dumb, but she has strong emotions. And a stupid person with strong feelings is always the most interesting kind of person. She said, I'm sorry. I think she means I'm sorry, but I make typos too, so I'll forgive you, Ellen. Ellen Hith, is that your name? I'm sorry, but you misrepresent evolution because of your own prejudice. You are using the same corruption science that the Nazis used. Stop degenerating science to support your own insecurities and ignorance. First and foremost, woman who I'm positive is white. Hitler loved Darwin. Hitler was a Darwinist. What are you saying right now? Hitler believed in Darwin. How can you accuse me of doing something when Hitler is the one who was following Charles Darwin? Like, I'm just trying to understand the logic. And then I want to go into some of her other comments because she was all over the place commenting and things like that. But she's yellow school bus special. And it just got literally like more and more dumb after that. So I entertained her because I know that it can make you feel some kind of way. I said, the Nazis used Darwinism too, though. And facts are facts. My sources are airtight. This is what I'm saying. Before you say I'm wrong, maybe go check my sources. because I picked the sources I picked for a reason so that nobody could say that I was wrong. Because, even the white people say this about him. Ellen said, then you've sprung a leak. She thinks she's clever. The Nazis used a corruption of the theory of evolution. She said, the Nazis used a corruption of the theory of evolution. There is no such thing as Darwinism. This bitch actually said, there's no such thing as Darwinism. Not only is Darwinism used in scientific text, but the Nazis did exactly what Darwin said, which was kill the lower races of men, according to them. That's not corrupt. That's like exactly what Charles Darwin wrote about in The Descent of Man. That's literally what the whole book, The Origin of Species, and the entire book of The Descent of Man was about. I really believe that people who believe in Darwin have never actually read anything that Darwin has wrote. I am convinced of this. Because if you ever actually read any of his books, and for that matter, any of his daughter's books, you would know exactly what the man thought. He was an ardent racist. How is this even disputable? He wrote a whole book about killing non-white people. If a person writes a whole book about murdering people who aren't right, I would have to say that killing non-white people wouldn't be a corruption of his ideologies. And then to really, really bring it home, she goes, perhaps you can explain to me how a paternity test works. Because paternity tests and macroevolutionary theory, those two things, they just run side by side with each other, right? Just side by side. So here I am, because you guys, I will be nice to a stupid person for extended periods of time. But the thing about stupid people is if you try to treat them like their dumbass arguments are actually serious, they digress into places that are more retarded than the place before. So, number one, I say, there's no support whatsoever for macroevolutionary theory. It cannot be demonstrated, reproduced, or measured. And then I try to help her by citing real research. And probably the best known research on macroevolutionary theory was done with fruit flies. So here I am, even though I know she's stupid, I'm trying to cite actual research that she can go read the research paper herself. That was done by people who are evolutionists. People who believe in Darwin did this study because they tried to use fruit flies. So I explain it to her. I'm like, every experiment attempting to reproduce or demonstrate macroevolutionary theory has failed. There has never been an intermediary species, living or dead, found. Any claims to ones have been found to be hoaxes. I said microevolution, yes, that is real. Let us separate the two as they are very different, which I opened up my video saying something very scientific. There is microevolution, there is macroevolution. Microevolution is real. We use it on the daily. Macroevolution is a theory that nobody can prove. I opened up the discussion with that. And again, mind you, my video isn't even about the validity or non-validity of macroevolutionary theory, although I could tear evolutionary theory to shreds. My video was about macroevolutionary theory as it is applied to human beings and used to murder non-white people. That was what my video was about. But because white people felt some kind of way that I pointed out that Darwin was a loser who had no scientific background, and promoted racist policy, they want to attack something that my video was not even about. But whatever, I played the game for a minute. So I go, DNA testing and one species turning into a completely distinct and separate species are hardly the same thing. Like, what the hell does a DNA test for paternity have to do with a rodent becoming a human? Because that's what Darwin believes, and that's what evolutionary theory teaches. It teaches that a single celled, or, well, actually, it teaches that a ball of dust, a non living thing, spontaneously became alive. And some primordial soup of just globulous single celled organisms spontaneously grew eyeballs and lungs and hearts and stuff, became fish or little simple aquatic beings that became fish, that became lizards, that crawled out of, fish that crawled out of the ocean, became a lizard, became a rodent, the rodent became a primate, the primate is you. What does a DNA test have to do with that? Nothing. A paternity test is completely irrelevant to whether or not a lizard can become a rodent, can become a freaking monkey, can become a human. I mean, these correlations are like, I can't with the stupid ass correlations. So I said DNA testing from one species turning into a completely distinct and separate species are hardly the same thing. But nice try trying to get me. I mean, if you're going to get me with science, can we at least stay on the same scientific page? Can you not leap off into paternity testing, Maury Povechville on me? I'm so confused. And then she's going to say, please explain why. She said, please explain why horses and donkeys can interbreed, yet their offspring are sterile. I'm like, oh my gosh. So at this point, I feel like, okay, she's dumb, but maybe she's asking questions. So my oversensitive butt, I actually try to answer her question because she asked me a question. Why can horses and donkeys mate, but they can't, their offspring are sterile? Now, this is a stupid question because, again, a horsey and a donkey having sex and a sterile baby, it's not the same thing as a rat becoming a gorilla, becoming a human. Like, these are totally different concepts. But I'm like, okay, you're dumb. So I'll try to break it down to baby food level. So I start speaking in these simplistic ass terms to her because honestly, I just thought she was too stupid to understand the presentation. So I was like, well, okay, let me talk like I'm talking to a 5-year-old. I'm like, I covered this in the beginning of my video. Microevolution is small changes in a species over short periods of time. Okay, so that's like the simplified, like kindergarten version. Microevolution are small changes in a species over small periods of time, over short periods of time. That is what Darwin observed in the Galapagos. We use microevolutionary concepts to breed dogs, for example. So I'm trying to give her, like, because remember, the slide that I made was made for children. So the fact that it was over an adult's head is like baffling to me. Like, that slide was actually made for kids. So I'm using the kid version for her because, some people, you can't speak any other language to them. I said, but dogs, though they may be wolves, greyhounds, foxes, are always still dogs. They never become different kinds of animals. Microevolution is used by farmers as well. Think mustard plants that are bred to make a variety of common vegetables by selecting for certain parts of the plant. Macroevolutionists say, Now, again, I'm trying to take her dumbass question seriously, y'all. Like, seriously, I'm really sitting here, like, answering her questions and politely, mind you. I said macroevolutionists say a fish becoming a four-legged land dwelling animal, then morphing eventually into a human. So it is a complete species, a complete change of species or kind of animal to another unique and new kind of animal. And that's really what macroevolution is. It says that a non living ball of dust exploded and somehow became a living primordial soup. That's what they call it. They call it primordial soup. And primordial soup was this glob that was alive, but not really alive. And it was just bubbling away. And it grew an eyeball. It grew some lungs. It became some kind of weird aquatic animal. Nobody explains how or why because we don't know. It popped out a leg or a fin or a lung or something. Eventually, it crawled out of its soup onto dry land. It morphed like, alien style into some rodent. The rodent, after billions and billions of years, it morphed into some other kind of animal. And that animal morphed into you. That's what macroevolution says. Nobody can prove it. Nobody can reproduce it. We've never found an intermediary species because remember, in macroevolutionary theory, every single type of cell develops separately and individually. So you should find all kinds of skeletons and remains of animals that were failed attempts at nature accidentally remaking itself. But we never find any intermediary species. It's never been done. Trillions of living things on this planet. Trillions of living things on this planet. Trillions of living plant and animal life is on this planet. And we have never even found one, not even one intermediary species ever. Not alive and not dead. We've never found even one. Never. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just saying. Believe what you want to believe. But in all the trillions of things that accidentally got made, we never find an intermediary species. We never find a failure at evolution because, did everything just evolve accidentally perfectly every time? Some of those things, I mean, we know that's not the case because even scientists say that some of these intermediary species were failures and died off, but we never see it. So I'm trying to explain to this white woman because why? Why am I explaining, you guys? I don't know. Because I'm a nice person. I'm trying to explain it to her. I said all laboratory tests that have been done to attempt to demonstrate or reproduce macroevolution have failed. There was one done with fruit flies because they have fast breeding cycles and short life cycles and a simple genome. They crawled the genome of the flies until they exhausted making every possible variation. But they were always fruit flies, never a different kind of animal. So I cited one of the most well-known pieces of research on macroevolutionary theory because these people truly believe in it. And they attempted, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this, and you can go read the research paper yourself, these evolutionists attempted to work with species that breed very quickly and die very quickly because you can simulate millions and millions of years of evolution technically by manipulating the genome. Now remember, all genetic defects, all genetic defects, all genetic defects, aka all mutations, are only caused by pre-existing parts of your genome. meaning a mutation is a mutation of a specific pre-existing part of a species' genome. So a mutation can only occur in things that exist in a species. So fruit flies were a very smart thing to study because we can easily map their genome and because their life cycles are short and they breed quickly. And these scientists created all kinds of fruit flies with red eyes, fruit flies with 6 wings, wingless fruit flies. I mean, all kinds of freaks of nature were created in that lab, but they could never create anything that was not a fruit fly. That is perhaps the most well known clinical laboratory research ever done on macroevolutionary theory. They even tried to remake the primordial soup. It simply couldn't be done. So I'm trying to give this woman stuff that she could go and she could research on her own. You don't have to be stupid. You too can read a scientific paper. These people aren't so smart that it was written in some language you won't understand. And then I also had to correct her. I said there are such terms as Darwinism and Darwinian evolution. Even in scientific texts, why do you think I made up the word Darwinism? That's a real word. Google is your friend. And then I tell her, like I said, feel free to reference my sources. That was the point of the freaking sources in the video. If you want to call me a liar, go talk to Harvard. Go talk to Princeton. They're full of white people. You believe them. That's why I use them as my sources. So you couldn't talk shit. That was the whole point in the sources. And then I try to just say, yo, let's just agree to disagree. You know, let's just agree to disagree. And then this broad has the nerve to tell me I don't have any idea about evolution. Like, I can't, you know, let me stop sharing. I can't. And she left 30 other comments other than that, too. I can't with the stupidity. And ultimately, that is the theme of this conversation. Oh, is Sin up here? Oh, Sin, I'm so sorry. I'm on a whole fucking rant. I'm so irritated. Hold on. Let me put the thing in the chat. So these are the 2 white people that came to my channel. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, Cynthia. Come up if you like. These are the 2 white people that came to my channel to frickin' fight with me over this crap. Look, Darwin was a frickin' racist. Evolutionary theory is just their way to justify killing black people. Just period. I don't have time to debate this. And you know what? Let me show you a chart. Let me show you how dumb these people are. Because again, you know, I created this for children, but she took qualms with me saying a horse becoming a person. Well, let me just share something with you guys. Let me share with you the type of dumb shit they were doing. Look at this little chart right here. Do you guys see this chart? Do you see this retarded chart? This is an old evolutionary theory chart. There was a belief that each kind of human that white people named came from a different group of animals. Look at this. You can't make this stuff up. This is real history. You had all these different humans, and look at the animals they thought they came from. They actually believed that these people started as branches. A freaking branch that turned into a bird, that turned into, like, I'm trying to make sense of it all, that turned into a whale, that turned into an elk, that turned into a seal, that turned into some kind of a bear person. I can't make this crap up. Okay. They thought, look at this. This is what they think. I'm not making this up. They actually think that this black person started as a giraffe that became a rhinoceros, that became an elephant, that became a monkey, became a black person. This is the shit that they were y'all, you cannot create this. You cannot make this stuff up. This is a real historic. Several people were elephants at some point, apparently. Apparently, this type of black person started as some sort of a rodent that became another kind of rodent that became some kind of a squirrel that became some sort of tree dwelling primate that became a half squirrel, half primate that then morphed back into a rodent on the ground, became another type of squirrel, and then somehow became some rodent on the ground and then just magically jumped into a black person. This is what they believe. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Darwin had a problem with this chart because he didn't argue that people came from animals in this very way. He just said that we all came from the same animal and that the different races were, offspring of each other. So basically, certain races were lower races because they were less evolved forms of white people. But he doesn't argue that you came from these random ass animals. I mean, they thought the Native Americans started as actual buffaloes that became gazelles, that became goats, that became some sort of a deer that turned into a bear, that turned into a Native American. I mean, you cannot make this crap up. And I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Me, I'm stupid. They're not stupid. No, they're not dumb. It's me. I'm the one. I'm the one with the problem. I am the one with the problem. And let me show you a modern day evolutionary chart. I showed this on my first presentation. You would think that things have gotten better. Oh, but things have not gotten better. Things have not improved. I took this one from UC Berkeley. This is a modern day evolutionary chart. Because you would think that they would have gotten a better system. But no, the system hasn't changed. I pulled this little chart right here. This one is actually on UC Berkeley's website, okay? Actually on UC Berkeley's website. If you think I'm joking, I'll put the link in the chat. It's really there. I was just looking at it today. A little organism starts as that. It becomes a crustacean of some kind that morphs into a more bug-like crustacean, that morphs into a fish, that morphs into a lizard, that morphs into some kind of a rodent, that then becomes you. 2020, y'all. We started at the bottom, now we're here. But I'm the stupid one. I'm the stupid one. I am the dumb one. I'm the one that has a problem. I'm the one who doesn't understand it. Are you freaking kidding me right now? I mean, you people believe that a ball of dust exploded, became primordial soup, grew some eyeballs and a heart and a lung, crawled onto land and became a lizard, then became a rodent. The rodent became some kind of small primate who morphed into a bigger primate who turned into you. And I'm dumb. At least I'm smart enough to think that maybe somebody, a higher intelligent being, designed us. Nobody's ever looked at a car or a pencil or a house and thought, you know what? I think that happened by accident. A trillion times over. Nobody has ever done that. You have a guy that dropped out of school twice. His backup plan was to become a priest, spend 5 weeks on some remote island in the Galapagos, write a book talking about killing people who aren't white, and I'm the problem? I'm the problem. I'm the problem. No, but Cass, that's exactly how it works. That's exactly how it works, though, Cass. That is exactly the belief. I'm not putting anything on this. The belief is that a swirling ball of dust exploded. After the swirling ball of dust, you had all of the elements suddenly come into existence. You know, the periodic table, all of the elements suddenly came into existence. Never mind that some of these elements cannot coexist and they are all non living. Then this non living conglomeration of elements became a living thing called primordial soup. I'm not making this up. Primordial soup. Let me just define what primordial soup is, because I think it's essential that we understand these terms. I mean, granted, my presentation was not about debunking or not debunking macroevolutionary theory. My presentation was about macroevolutionary theory being used to kill off non-white people. That's what my presentation was about. But I'm here for the evolution conversation. A primordial soup, according to Oxford Dictionary, a solution rich in organic compounds in the primitive oceans of the earth, from which life is hypothesized to have originated. Primordial soup. It's soupy. It's got some kind of organic material in it that grew an eyeball spontaneously. It just spontaneously grew an eye, spontaneously grew some lungs, spontaneously grew nostrils, gills, fins. We have never seen a genetic mutation that did not harm the host. It's never been seen. But we are supposed to believe that every plant and animal on the face of the earth is the result of beneficial genetic mutations, even though you have never seen a genetic mutation that has not harmed the host. That is science. We have never observed a mutation that did not harm the host. Never, ever, ever. Science has never seen it. And yet, we are supposed to believe that every plant, every bug, every animal on the whole planet is the result of random, beneficial genetic mutations that somehow just worked out perfectly. And we've never even seen one that hasn't harmed the host. We believe that it happened trillions of times, but we've never actually seen it even one time. That's macroevolution for you. It's a whole religion. You can't prove it. You can't prove macroevolution any more than I can prove Santa Claus. You can't prove macroevolution any more than I can prove that there is a Loch Ness monster. And oh, you can't prove macroevolution any more than I can prove God exists. You believe, just like I believe. It's a whole damn religion. And it's a religion based in racism. It was just white people's way of killing you. It was just white people's way of killing other human beings. That is what it was for. Darwin said it himself. There's no need to be in denial about this. But anyway, let's continue. So a big ball of dust exploded, became all of the elements. All of the elements. Now, if you know anything about chemistry and the periodic table, you know that some of these elements, they are destructive and they cannot coexist with the other elements. But we'll just put that bit of known science aside because, we don't want to have to explain that. Boom, primordial soup. It's soupy, it's floating around, it's got eyeballs, it's got teeth, it's got hair, it's got fins, it's got gills, it's got what you need. Then this primitive creature says, you know what? I don't want to breathe this primordial soup air anymore. I want to crawl out of the water and I want to just breathe on land. I'm going to flop around on land. Now, here's my question. Who was this primordial soup creature having sex with? Because if a donkey and a horse can't create an offspring, and they're complete functional species and they can't create an offspring that's not sterile, who did the primordial soup monster have sex with to make babies? Okay, so let's say it was asexual. Let's say it was asexual. It didn't have to have sex. At some point, when the crustacean became the fish that became the lizard that crawled out of the ocean, who did that lizard have sex with? Who did he have sex with? Or she? At what point did the lizards start screwing each other? I mean, you don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. And then when did the scales on this beast suddenly become hair? And where are the remnants of all the bones of all these transformations? I just want to know, where are the bones? We've got bones for dinosaurs out here. We have bones for giant people, but we can't find not one bone for a twisted intermediary species. Well, yes, Cass. According to macroevolutionary theory, yes, we were all once single-celled organisms. But more than that, a tree and a human are all derived from the same single-celled organism, and it was all by accident. It accidentally became a plant, it accidentally became a human. I mean, we don't know how it works, but we have faith. Again, we have never seen a beneficial mutation in any living thing, but we have faith that trillions upon quadrillions of beneficial mutations happened to form every living thing on the planet. We've never seen it happen once. Every mutation humans have ever seen has harmed the host. But we believe that quadrillions of times over, all these mutations kept happening and we just kept getting perfect animals, a perfect tree, a perfect strawberry, a perfect cow, a perfect horse, a perfect fish. Just quadrillions upon quadrillions of beneficial mutations, but we can't even manage to produce one beneficial mutation. I mean, y'all make it all make sense to me. I can't make it make sense. I mean, I'm supposed to be the stupid one, but I'm just saying, it would seem to me that something that happened quadrillions of times to produce every plant and animal on the planet, we could perhaps at least get one beneficial mutation as an example. Just one. Because we see mutations all the time, but they're always bad. There are no such things as good mutations. Where am I getting an accident from? Oh, okay. I'll tell you where I'm getting that it's an accident from. I'll tell you. Because remember, it's not intelligent design, it's an accident. See, for it to not be an accident, it would have to be on purpose. But if it's on purpose, that means that somebody had to purposely do it. But see, in macroevolution, things don't happen on purpose because there's no intelligent hand causing it to happen. So the only other thing is it happens by accident. But let me find a reputable source to say this. Let me find a reputable source to say it. This should be good. Hold on. I think I can even find a reputable source that uses the word accident. I think I can. I think I can. With the actual word accident, because it is accidental. But while I look for this, I'm curious how. Well, I didn't say somebody had to do it. I'm saying if you say that it's not an accident, then for it to have not been an accident, it would have had to be on purpose, right, Cass? If it wasn't an accident, it would have had to be on purpose. And if it was on purpose, there would have to be somebody purposefully doing it. So it's either accident, it's happening by chance, or it's on purpose. But things don't purposely happen without intent, which means that something has to have intent for it to be on purpose. I mean, it can't be accidentally on purpose. Well, okay, Cassandra, how about this? Name one good mutation. Just one. This is my challenge. The whole chat room. Google is your friend. Name one beneficial mutation that we know of. Anyone, anybody, a beneficial mutation, one that does not hurt the host. Anybody. Just one beneficial mutation. I challenge you. You will not find one. One mutation that benefits the host without harming it. That's the challenge. That is the challenge. Well, no, mutations aren't based on selection. That's why it's called a mutation. That's why it's called a mutation. A mutation is when a gene accidentally. Okay, let's look up what a mutation is. How about that? Genes don't select. A mutation is when something goes wrong. It's not because the gene selected right or wrong. A mutation, the very nature of the mutation is that something goes wrong. But while I get up the definition of mutation, I challenge anybody to produce even one. Okay, no, specifically, Cassandra, what happened to the moths during the Industrial Revolution that was a mutation that benefited them? That's what I'm asking. That is what I'm asking. I mean, the Ninja Turtles could count. They were a mutation. Right. Thank you, Brother Moses. I would have said sickle cell too. But sickle cell is damaging to the host. I think sickle cell is the most well-known mutation that benefits against malaria, and I've used this in example in previous videos, but it does damage the host. We know that people who have sickle cell anemia, it is dangerous for them. So while it helps them be resistant to malaria, it handicaps them too. That would probably be the best example. That's why I said I challenge anybody. Just name one beneficial mutation that does not harm the host. Science knows of none. It knows of none. But macroevolutionary theory is dependent upon there being beneficial mutations that do not damage the host, and that to have happened quadrillions of times over to produce every plant and animal on the planet. But we know of not even one. We know of not even one mutation that has ever benefited the host. Yeah, I got nothing either, Brother Moses. And again, I'm not trying to be funny or anything like that, y'all. I'm just saying, like, you can't say that I'm stupid when this is stupid. This is stupid. It can't be proven. And a lot of people were coming. A lot of people were coming. a lot of people were coming for me, white people were coming for me because they felt some kind of way because their god Darwin, I said he was a trash human being. He was a dropout, he was uneducated. The only degree he had was in theology because he wanted to be a priest. And he was a racist. He wrote a whole book about racism. Okay, but Cassandra, that's a variation, not a mutation. So that's microevolution. So I'm glad. So Cassandra brought up moths. The moths were being eaten by birds. So the color of the moths darkened so that they would be less visible to predators. That's microevolution. So we really have to separate microevolution from macroevolution. Again, microevolution are small changes in a species, pre-existing things that that species can have. And so color is one of those things. Color, wingspan, beak length. Like I said, we see this with dogs, long tails, short tails. That is microevolution. I don't dispute microevolution. We know that microevolution is real. What we would see in the moths is not a mutation. What we would see is that every once in a while, right, you would have dark moths born. They wouldn't be eaten, so they would mate. That's microevolution. And because the darkness is a dominant gene, it would be expressed more. So you would get a population of moths who then had a darker color, which improves their rate of survival. That is what we call microevolution. That is a very real thing. We can manipulate microevolution. We do it with dog breeding. We do it with farming. We utilize microevolution we have since the beginning of humankind. So that is a very good example, Cassandra, but it's not an example of mutation. It's an example of microevolution because the moths had the genes to code for darkness already. It's just the selecting for that through breeding, right? That's how we get those kinds of changes. So that's microevolution. That's not macroevolution. Remember, macroevolution is you become something totally different. And the limitation to the macroevolution conversation is genes will only code for the genetic material that is available, be that a mutation or otherwise. Macroevolution is kind of dependent upon new genomes being introduced. Theoretically, because we can only speak theoretically when talking about macroevolution, macroevolution means that whatever that primordial soup original being was, and all of the subsequent beings that followed to bring us to modern day, that all of those creatures had the ability to code to be either a tree or a cupcake or a dog or a cat or a monkey. I'm being facetious, but you know what I'm saying? It's hard to be serious in a conversation about stupid stuff. Okay, but Cassandra, you're saying the same thing I said. A pre-existing option in the genome. That's microevolution. That is microevolution. I know what you're talking about with the moth color. Let's look at let's okay. Why is this complicated? Let's talk about microevolutionary theory, okay? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what microevolution is. Moths changing color is a result of microevolution. Just like skin color is microevolution. In other words, that's how two dark-skinned people can have a light-skinned child, or two presumably white people could have a black baby. Because somewhere in their genome, there is a code for that skin color. And so the case with the moths was that the darker moths, because once you said that, I'm familiar with this. The darker moths were able to survive more because they were less visible to predators. They would mate. The darker color is dominant. We know how genetics works, right, with parents, right? So the darker color was dominant in the parents. And so the likelihood of them producing darker offspring went up. And if you had two dark colored moths producing, they would produce offspring that carried that gene. So that is called microevolution. That's what Darwin observed in the Galapagos with the finches, and the beaks and the wingspan changing. Macro isn't just about time. Okay, so the literal definition of microevolutionary theory and macroevolutionary theory are this: small changes in a species over short periods of time. That is microevolution. Macroevolution are large changes in a species, like one species changing from one thing to something totally different over a long period of time. That is the literal definition of it. The literal definition. The literal definition. Let me read it because I can't be believed apparently. So let me read it from a source you guys will believe. Although I did put sources in my last video because I knew people wouldn't believe me then. I feel like, let's keep it real. Most people have never heard of micro and macro evolutionary theory. So let's go to UC Berkeley. Can we all agree that UC Berkeley? No, Cassandra, that it doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't work that way, Cassandra, because macroevolution depends on large changes. Large changes. And science believes that you should see intermediary species. Science disagrees with you. For decades, they searched for intermediary species. Nobody talks about it anymore. But science believes that we should see intermediary species. That's not me saying it. Science is the one who came up with the term intermediary species. Nobody's ever found one. And that's not like me saying anything. That's literally what the science says. Okay. Microevolution, this is UC Berkeley, happens on a small scale within a single population, like with the moths. While macroevolution happens on a scale that transcends the boundaries of a single species, despite their differences. That's UC Berkeley. That says that. It's actually one of the sources I used. And speaking of which, they call the change in color insignificant. This is UC Berkeley too, Cass. It says evolution encompasses changes of vastly different scales. And then it goes to explain the two scales. The first scale, something as insignificant as an increase of frequency of the gene for dark wings. That's what UC Berkeley says. I'm not even making this up. I'm reading it directly from evolution.berkeley.edu. Something as insignificant as an increase in the frequency of a gene for dark wings in beetles from one generation to the next. That is what happened to the moths. That is microevolution. Macroevolution is what they said, radiation of the dinosaur lineage. So the many types of dinosaurs, they say, are caused by macroevolution. Those are two totally different conversations. And that's why I said I don't think and let's keep it real. Most people didn't even know that there were two types of evolution. Let's keep it real. Not you specifically, Cass, but if we keep it real, who can be honest? The first time you ever heard of macro and micro evolution is when I mentioned it. If we're keeping it real. The first time you ever heard of micro or macro evolution is when I mentioned it. Even though these are scientific terms. And most people don't understand the difference. So this is what I'll say. My video wasn't about attacking macroevolutionary theory, although I will attack it. I'm comfortable with that. My video was about the use of the idea of bullshit ass macroevolutionary theory to kill human beings. That's what it was about. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, let's talk about what an intermediary species is. Because Cassandra, you don't seem to understand what an intermediary species is. An intermediary species is not a complete and functioning species. It's not that way. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that's not what it is. So let me go to a reputable source so that I don't want anybody to say anything. Oh my gosh. And I'm back at UC Berkeley. And you know what they have for the intermediary species? They have a question mark. This is science. This is science. They don't have an example. They just have one complete species and then another complete species. They literally have a question mark. Let me see if I can. I'm on my phone, so I can't. I'm on my phone looking at it, so I can't put it up on the screen. They literally have a blurred out picture with a question mark. They start with one animal, they draw an arrow to another animal, and then they have a blurred out picture with a question mark that says transitional form, question mark. Okay, so the reason we can measure microevolution is because it's a real thing. We can't measure macroevolution because, like I said, in all of the laboratory studies where evolutionists have tried, they can't get one animal to turn into another animal. That would be macroevolution. They've never been able to get one animal to become something different. They always stay the same kind of animal. So the question really isn't for me as to why we can't reproduce or measure it. The question is to evolutionary theorists. I can't explain. I mean, I think it's because it doesn't exist. They will say it's because more research is needed. You know what I mean? So I guess it depends on who you ask. I'll say because it's bullshit. They'll say because we need more research. So anyway, I just wanted to come on here and I just wanted to say to the people that I use, these white people I use as an example who are in my comment section, please do not come in my comment section and say stupid things. I mean, if you're not even going to listen to the words that came out of my mouth, how are you going to be in my comment section arguing with me? I mean, you sound so smart. So Darwin only took five weeks to get to the Galapagos Islands. Ha ha. No, idiot. I said It was a 5-year voyage, and he spent 5 weeks in the Galapagos Islands. I literally said he was 22 when he got on the ship. He was 26 when he went into the Galapagos Islands. How you got 5 weeks out of that, I just don't know. But like, listening is key. If you want to be a smartass in my comment section, at least know what you're talking about. Like, it does not help to just come in my comment section and be stupid. It is not helpful. I've ranted about this enough. The thing is, I know that we'll never come to a consensus on my channel, right, over macro versus micro evolutionary theory, because the scientific community hasn't come to a consensus. You had one scientist who was literally thrown out of the Smithsonian because he even dared to speak about intelligent design. So I hardly think on my little channel we're going to do something that actual scientists have not been able to do, which is they fight amongst themselves over macroevolutionary theory versus intelligent design. These are whole scientists. So surely, you know, we aren't going to hash this thing out and come to any conclusions. But what I will say to Black people is this. The person who thought up macroevolutionary theory, the first application that he wanted to make of it was to kill you. So if for no other reason, we shouldn't be listening to him. This is a man who was an idiot that couldn't graduate out of school, a priest turned faux scientist with no scientific background. And the first thing he wanted to do with his so-called theory of evolution was discuss how white people were going to exterminate the lower races. And so if for no other reason, we as Black people should not be on this bandwagon. We should question everything these white people who came up with this said, simply on the strength that the 4 most prominent voices in this were individuals who were all about killing non-whites. Any other thing that they've done to try to clean that up since then is irrelevant. And we need to take pause because they teach your children that these people are good people in your schools. So, but Cassandra, I'm not arguing. So does intelligent design make sense? Okay, let me say this. Take the word God out of it. I will answer this before I go, in my opinion. Take the word God out of it, okay? Does intelligent design make sense? So you give me 2 options. Option number 1, dust exploded, all the elements were created, even though a lot of them can't coexist. A primordial soup randomly turned into a human being eventually. Every plant and animal is an accidental occurrence, right? Because of random beneficial genetic mutations. Or there was an intelligent being, not God. Let's remove the word God, because I think when you say God, people get triggered. I didn't say creationism, I said intelligent design. There are atheists who believe in intelligent design. Let's keep it clear. An intelligent being, an intelligent life form designed other types of life. A life form whose intelligence and scientific understanding exceeds our abilities was able to design life. Right? That does make sense. Like I said, you don't see a car, you don't see a house, you don't see, you don't go to a dog show and think, man, all these dogs that accidentally got, looking like this. We know that people did the breeding. We know that people did the building. We know that we see a pencil lying on the ground. We don't go, wow, look at that accident. We know that somebody designed that pencil. Every time we see anything that is structurally made, We know that there is a design to it. So, yeah, that does make sense. Intelligent design, again, because a lot of people hate God. So much so that they would rather believe in evolutionary theory because the alternative to them is, oh my gosh, that means I'd have to believe in God, and I don't want to believe in God. But like I said, even if you take the word God out of it, we take creationism out of it, and we just talk about intelligent design, that there could be something living more advanced than you that is capable of designing living things. We can design living things as human beings to a point. Why do we think we are the pinnacle of intellect? Could there be nothing that exists that is more intelligent than us? That is capable of doing more than we can do with the creation of living things? I'm just saying. So, yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot more sense than every bug on the planet accidentally just perfectly forming. And not all only that these things have perfectly formed, but that they all work together. We know that every living thing on this planet is codependent with every other living thing. Yeah, I think it's more reasonable to think that was designed than that it happened on accident. But intelligent design, again, I don't argue against that, Cassandra. I'm just saying the same thing goes for macroevolution. You can't prove it either. You can't prove, and by you, I don't mean you, I mean all evolutionists, can no more prove macroevolution than I can prove intelligent design. Although I would say the proof is in the pudding. The car proves that there's a maker. I would say that. The existence of the thing that is made proves that somebody made it. That would be my argument. But past that, no, I can't prove it. But you know what? They can't prove it either. So we're both in the same boat. It's just what you want to believe in. But again, I'll reiterate, to me, the thing that is made indicates that there is a maker. We know that nothing moves towards order. That's a law, right? Let's talk scientific law. The second law of thermodynamics, right, says that there is an ever increasing tendency towards disorder. That there is no such thing as a perfect transfer of energy. That is not scientific theory, that is a scientific law. Let me repeat that. The second law of thermodynamics, a scientific law, not a theory, but a law, says that every closed system, every single closed system, it tends to maximize entropy. That there is an ever increasing tendency toward disorder when things are left by themselves. Things don't get better by themselves. Macroevolutionary theory, it defies the second law of thermodynamics. So if you're asking me, because we're talking a difference between a scientific law, which is something we know for a fact to be true, and a scientific theory, which is what somebody thinks but cannot prove, I would say that macroevolutionary theory, it violates the second law of thermodynamics. which is that you can simply leave any closed system just to be, and it just becomes better. That's not what happens. Things get worse unless there is some input of energy. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But there's a lot of conversations, and maybe I'll put together like a presentation, like not on the fly like this, where we really talk about, like, I could really rip evolution apart. I could rip it apart just using the periodic table. If we want to talk about just not what we think or feel, but everybody loves science. Science disproves macroevolution. Like I said, the theory is in violation of the second law of thermodynamics, just up front. Things do not randomly move toward order. That's not what happens. When you leave things alone, any type of closed system alone, it moves toward disorder. That is a scientific law. It is exactly the opposite of what macroevolution says. Again, Cassandra, it's the law of thermodynamics. I mean, are we going to argue against scientific law? We can't do that. It's not a theory, it's a law. And contrary to what many people may think, I'm very fond of science. I mean, we've talked about this before. You guys know that my field of interest and my concentration was molecular biology, with a focus on stem cell research, specifically neo-organs. So I'm not exactly stupid. The only reason I didn't go full-fledged into molecular biology is because when we were doing the neo-organs, and I've told this story before, when stem cell technology was new and it was rudimentary, and we still do have this problem now, which is why scientists have moved to adult stem cells instead of using embryonic stem cells. I've told this story before, but maybe you guys haven't heard this. So let me just say this. I used to hold a lot of beliefs until I moved into the area of molecular biology. And like I said, specifically, my concentration was within stem cell research, specifically looking at neo-organs. This is before there was an actual field of molecular biology. Like, there were no molecular biologists. You guys know that I'm old. So this is when we first discovered that we could manipulate embryonic stem cells and we could tell them to be anything we wanted them to be. This was big science at the time. And what we found was that as we were manipulating these cells, we would get what were tumors. And inside of these tumors, we would find that there was hair, there would be teeth, there would be the cells attempting to create a baby. Because even if we could program the cells to be something other than what they were intended to be, which was a human being, the cells knew at some level that they were supposed to be humans. And there is nothing more grotesque, let me tell you, than opening up a tumor and seeing teeth inside of it. That is disturbing stuff. And that is when I realized that life begins at conception. And that reformed I wrote a whole thesis. I wrote a whole thesis saying that life did not begin until the heart was formed. And I would never stand by that thesis anymore. I would never do it because of what I learned in those early stages of stem cell technology and the attempt for us to produce neo-organs. And neo means just an organ that is produced using embryonic stem cells. And I used to be so passionate about it, you guys. I used to be like, oh my gosh, people, we are going to be able to help so many people. You won't have to wait for a heart transplant or a lung transplant. We will just be able to manipulate these neo cells, these embryonic stem cells, and we will be able in a petri dish to produce skin, to produce hearts, to produce lungs. I mean, we honestly thought that we were going to change the world with that technology. but it is highly unstable. And that is why anybody who knows anything about the field of stem cell research now knows that they prefer to use adult stem cells. And those stem cells are only coded for to be specific things. And the reason adult stem cells are preferred is because you don't have to worry about them trying to become a baby. So I say all this to say that I'm not exactly ignorant. And a lot of my views in the field of the sciences come from this period of time where I was so passionate about stem cell research. And I was so sure that the field I would go into would be molecular biology. And I just knew that I was going to be that first wave of scientists that developed these stem cells, these neo organs from stem cells. But the laboratory testing taught me different. So like I said, I could put together a very sort of, I could put together a really comprehensive, like, presentation on my views from a scientific standpoint on evolutionary theory and cite some scientists maybe you guys will respect who believe in intelligent design and do a compare and contrast of evolutionary theory to known laws of physics and science, and we could have a real conversation. But what I find is that people believe in macroevolutionary theory and they don't really understand science at all. Because I will tell you something, anybody who really has an understanding of science will either tell you, number one, that intelligent design is possible, or number two, they hate God so much that they will still push pseudoscience despite knowing better. And I think I can prove that. I can prove that with empirical data, peer-reviewed research. I can throw out some scientific names that you guys can vet, that you will trust, who speak on this issue in ways that neither you or I can, right? Like I said, I don't think we can flesh this out on my channel. I don't think we're going to flesh this out on my channel, because when I say that scientists at the highest echelon of the field of sciences, they fight about this very thing amongst themselves. But I will tell you from my personal experience, going from a person who believed in abortion before the heart was formed, going from a person who believed that the next cutting, age sort of wave of science was going to be neo organs, coming from a person who was studying to be a molecular biologist before the field ever existed, before there was an actual field of molecular biologists, when this research was very, very new. I have to say that a lot about what you think, it changes when you really do dig into the science. So if you guys want to have more than like a superficial conversation about this, I will be more than happy to do that. I will be more than happy to put together a very comprehensive presentation where we look at scientific law versus theory, where we look, like I said, at the periodic table and discuss the actual, because, Cassandra was saying I was simplifying the macroevolutionary story, and I was, you know what I mean? But I could not simplify it, and we can talk about how at each stage it doesn't make sense. I'm more than happy to do that, because something I am very pro-science. I have no problems with science. I do not want it to be convoluted, the fact that I think macroevolutionary is racist bullcrap, that I think macroevolutionary theory is trash. That should never be convoluted with I don't like science, or I don't understand science, or I am not pro-science. I am very pro-science. But I think a lot of times we have these discussions from perspectives that are uneducated. And because we're so heavily indoctrinated to believe a certain thing, and I also think hate of God plays a part in it, because I believe that even if you can demonstrate that macroevolutionary theory is not sensible, the only alternative is intelligent design. And I think it makes people who are atheistic in mindset uncomfortable. because they feel that if you point toward intelligent design, you're going to try to convert them into believing in God. And that's why I like to just remove that idea out of the situation, right? Because I feel at a disadvantage because everybody knows that I'm Christian. So they're going to go, oh, well, you're Christian. So clearly you're not going to. And I feel like that's not fair. If I can present to you a purely scientific and not bring God into it, argument for my standpoint, then I would ask you to respect that I was able to present a purely scientific argument for my standpoint. Because one thing is, I am Christian, but my Christianity is not threatened by science. So I have no problem leaving God out of it. Because I know that at the end of the day, it comes down to faith, right? And that's something I can't make a person have. So my conversation about macroevolutionary theory is not some underhanded way to get you to convert to Christianity. It's just me presenting the facts and saying to you, if we look at the facts of this thing, it's problematic. Anyway, Cassandra, you're a mess. I love you. I really do love you. But anyway, okay, so yeah, we can talk about that too. But that would be a separate conversation, Cassandra. We can talk about intelligent design as it applies to the degradation of the original framework, right? We can talk about that. I mean, why does a car start to break down over time? Why can a baby be born in perfect health but have bad lungs when they get older? I mean, those are real questions, but we know that there are a lot of factors that come into play. Even if you create something perfect, environmental factors, like different things come into play. And a lot of that has to do with like personal choice. But anyway, we can have this conversation some other time. I think I would prefer to have it some other time. I will put together something like ultra comprehensive for you guys. Ultra comprehensive, very science-based, with lots of sources, even though I feel like nobody ever looks at my sources, but I still like to provide them for the one person that might one day. And we could have this conversation from a different angle. And again, not even like I won't even do the intelligent design sort of thing. I will simply just look at macroevolutionary theory from a scientific perspective and really break it down. And I'll share with you guys, not on a rudimentary level, because the last live I did, like I said, that slide was for children. But I will respect your intelligence as adults, and I'll put together something very comprehensive. And we can revisit this discussion. And then you guys can tell me what you think from that place. I think that would probably be the best thing to do, because it's hard to really delve into this, especially because we might be looking at elements you guys are unfamiliar with. We might be looking at scientific laws that everybody doesn't know. So I want to have it together so that it's very comprehensive, so that because we're all at different levels of like understanding, that we all can comprehend it like together. So I just think it will be better that way. And then we don't have to like jump all over the place. And we can start from the Big Bang Theory to the primordial soup, to early species, to just the overarching macroevolutionary concept, and have that discussion that way. I'll even bring forth a lot of the research that has been done, because evolutionists do a lot of research. So we'll even look at some scientific papers. We'll look at the results of those studies. We'll look at all of that stuff. And I think it will be an interesting conversation that we can have. And I think it'll present a lot of information. I feel like it is not discovered, it's not talked about commonly, but I think will be beneficial for us to, you know what I mean? Because we often believe things and we don't understand why we believe them. So it really helps, even for me, to research these things. Because again, my viewpoints did change over the course of many years. I was raised Christian, but I think I did a video on this. I always believed in God, but I always didn't like God. And so during this phase of my life, I wasn't concerned about the Christian aspect of things. I was solely concerned about the scientific aspect of things. But it's funny how science has a way of correcting you when you really just study science. So anyway, we'll talk about it. I'll put something together. Oh, you started a new job Monday, Cass? Congratulations. Meanwhile, Cassandra, did everything turn out okay with that? Wait, I know you're going to answer me. Well, I don't know if you left. But anyway, congratulations on your new job. I hope everything turned out okay with your car. Oh, yeah, it got fixed. Okay, dope. Okay, and you guys, yeah, Cassandra, I adore you. Cassandra is always challenging me, which I love about her. But I'm glad that she did challenge my viewpoint because it's something I wouldn't have bothered with. And I never intended um my last live that I did on this topic to turn into a topic about evolution and the validity of it per se. I was just trying to demonstrate that macroevolutionary theory was used to kill people. But I mean, I'm glad that it's come here. I normally don't go here because it can be very, like, people have strong emotional ties to this subject. But since we're here, yeah, I will totally do that. I'll put together something really comprehensive. It will be a really interesting discussion. I actually love science. I love talking about this kind of thing. And I would love to talk about it with you guys and present, like I said, a scientific standpoint, what macroevolutionary theory is according to evolutionists, and what scientific challenges I put forth. So I just mentioned a couple today: the second law of thermodynamics, with consideration of the elements in the periodic table and their ability to coexist in a macroevolutionary sense. Those are just a couple of examples, but I can definitely do something more comprehensive, and I think we'll have fun with it. I didn't know you guys would be interested in something like that, but since you are, we can do that. It'll be big fun. And I actually have the next week off from teaching, so I can do that. So anyway, yeah, I know it was expensive. It sounded like it was expensive. It sounded like that. But anyway, you guys, I will talk to you later. And yeah, I guess I could leave this one up. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll leave this live up just for a little bit, but I'm trying not to bog down my channel with too many random videos. I'm trying to keep it super streamlined. But we'll see. I'll leave it up for a little bit, and then I'll probably just make it unlisted if you guys ever want to come back to it. All right, I'm going to go bake some cookies. So I'll talk to you guys later.